I'm Ben Byes.
And I'm Carly Byes. We've been married for 12 years and together for 15 and have 2 boys.
This is our story of a controlling church and spiritual abuse and how it shook our relationship and clouded our view of God.
Our desire is that our honest view of pain and trauma in relationships can provide hope and the courage to hold on when life does not turn out as planned,
while also providing a dash of humor and loving banter.
We are still working to find wholeness, and we welcome you on our journey.
Welcome back.
Oh. Sorry about this Friday launch thing. It's been a crazy week.
Yeah.
So we apologize. Sorry.
It should be Thursdays.
Yes, and it will be moving forward. We just have had 2 particularly crazy weeks that were not like predictable in terms of our nights that we typically record just didn't work out. So
Carly, tell them why we wanted to do Thursdays.
I thought we'd said because it's our patio date night.
Yeah, we never told the audience that.
Oh, I thought we did. Yeah. So once we had kids, and we realized it was near impossible to really have any time by ourselves anymore, we implemented a weekly date night on our patio. So after the kids went to bed, it was just an evening on our patio. We would take turns either making a new dessert or some sort of adult beverage. And we would keep our phones inside and just talk and try to be as intentional as possible, catch up while eating a great dessert.
Yeah.
Or drinking a great drink.
So
we always looked forward to Thursdays.
Yeah, Thursdays was like the big day, yeah.
Yeah, and it was almost Friday, so it felt like just we could make it to Thursday. It was something to look forward to that evening.
And both our jobs are very busy at the beginning of the week, and Thursday's almost like a breath anyway, and it gave us something to really look forward to.
And we couldn't do it like year round just because for you being a coach, we just have different times of the year that we can be more intentional, but that was our way of being intentional with each other. So Thursdays was become our launch day because of that. I know it seems like it's becoming Friday now, but the goal is we're gonna get back to Thursdays. I'm still feeling a little bit. We were watching Dr. Pimple Popper for a few minutes, and it's like so addicting and so satisfying, but equally making my stomach turn. Like, so I'm feeling a little gaggy.
In case anybody was wondering about Carly's guilty pleasure, it's pimple popping.
Yeah, I did. I forgot that one for sure. Yeah. It's what is so satisfying about watching that kind of thing. It's just,
I don't know. I can't watch it.
Yeah, you have a really weak stomach when it comes to that thing. But anyway, so bear with us. Last week's episode, we were rich for about 2.5 seconds.
And for longer thinking about being rich before the money came in.
Yeah.
And when the windfall came, so came the best business ever.
Oh my gosh.
So we talked about getting the money. There's one thing that I want to revisit again, because when we talk about manipulation and those sorts of things, our pastor did something very manipulative when it came to finances and money. And that was, there were times when we couldn't get groceries and he'd hand me $100 and say, hey, go take your wife out for dinner. And it would be so weird because I think I would come home and I would want to go out with Carly, but it'd be like, we should maybe buy groceries instead.
He was always really adamant about using that money for going out, or like it couldn't be used for what maybe we really needed it for.
Yeah. So that falls in line with this business stuff because when we were on the show in that 3-4 month period before we actually got the money was our anniversary. And someone in the church had taken out a loan because we'd promised to pay back everybody's loans because it was for the businesses we were doing. And he took $500 of that loan and gave it to me and said, go take her to a nice hotel for a couple nights. And it was so funny because even at the time I thought in my mind, well, you're basically giving me my own money right now. I mean, that's a loan that I'm going to pay back and you're giving it to me. And maybe it makes me feel better about spending it to go to a hotel. But, you know, it was one of those things that really messes with your mind. You're like, oh, yeah, he really does care about us. Then you realize, well, it's not really his money. So does he really? Maybe if he did, he'd let me go home every once in a while. But that was one of many times that happened.
Yeah.
But as we moved on, we started a new business. Throughout that fall, it was ramping up. And it really began in January 2008, I think is when we got the papers for the new business. Mm-hmm. And it was a corporation.
But don't forget that you had to write the business plans for all of these other fantastic businesses that we had. We talked about a few episodes ago. So it wasn't like just, oh, we had these business ideas, we implemented them, we were in a sweatshop for a couple months, and then we were over it. Ben had to write a business plan and business proposal for every single business.
Yeah, I sure did. I mean, I wasn't a business student, so...
No, remember when you went to El Camino for a business?
Oh, yeah.
What was that?
It was a small business thing, and I met with some counselors that help you
got.
Yeah, and they help you write a business plan. And yeah, I did a lot of work on it because I didn't have an understanding of it, and just like anything else, I was going to make sure I could do it. And I remember the first one I had to write was for one of the first businesses. Maybe Priestly Garments, or I don't think we wrote a business plan for that one. It was maybe the greeting cards, and I remember missing like 2 weeks of church because I was trying to write this business plan and write an exit strategy, and I put a lot of work and time into it, and obviously nothing was ever... But
why did you have to miss 2 weeks of church? Like you were only doing it on Sundays and Wednesday nights?
No, I was doing it for 2 weeks straight.
Because you were extremely busy. Is that were you still working at the church during that time? You were extremely busy doing nothing on the computer?
No, I was extremely busy writing business plans.
Okay.
Selling shirts on the corner. So, and not being allowed to open the church during the day. Because at one point I had an idea. We live in a low-income area. Wouldn't it be great if the church was open for people to come in and get some food or be able to pray? I'm here anyway. We might as well open it. Yeah, I wasn't allowed to do that. That would have been very bad.
Yeah.
If we allowed people to come into the church.
You don't know as people.
But throughout the course of the fall, we started a new business based upon the incredible graphic design you guys all saw.
You guys obviously took all of your best skills and created this multimedia business.
Yes. It was basically graphic design, but also
web
design, videography, photography, product development. I mean, it was a full multimedia suite. Your one-stop shop for anything media. And it was called
HW Design
Incorporated.
Well, the HW stood for Holy Writ. He finally realized how dumb of a name Holy Writ was. So it just became HW Design because that made more sense, which I guess it kind of did. But
talk about the logo.
Oh my gosh, I can't even begin to talk about the logo. So the logo, you'll probably do a better job of describing the logo.
I will.
In how excited he was about it and the prophetic. Just everything prophetic about it that was, went along with it.
It was a box, a 3D style box with an H on one side, a W on the other, and like a Roman wreath.
Yeah, like
wreath on the other.
Like filigree, yeah.
Yeah. And then the texture was like a marble color blue. But he was so excited because he's like, we're hiding the truth, the scripture in here, and no one's gonna know that it's really a Christian company. It's Holy Writ, but the HW in this box is hiding the truth, and it's gonna explode into the world.
And did it spin? It was 3D.
No, I actually made it spin in one of the programs that I learned to do.
Okay. So it looked like a child's play like block.
Yeah, it did.
With like alphabet letters on it.
Yeah.
But it was HW, and it was like 3-dimensional. And yeah, had like the Greek filigree on it.
Yes.
Foliage, that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I don't even know what filigree is.
I don't really know either. I meant foliage.
If filigree is something bad, we apologize.
But it was definitely top notch, super high quality, and yeah. But I remember we were all like, "Oh yeah, that's amazing!" Like, just like it just again was like he knew what he was doing for the vision of this business, and we were just so glad that he was the boss. So now he becomes like not only your pastor, but truly like your boss. 'Cause
Yeah,
you guys
he was
all
before,
became
but
employed
Yeah.
like strictly just under this business. Didn't people like quit their jobs to do this? Eventually, maybe not maybe right away,
I
but
don't think anyone had jobs.
well,
I quit my
point
job
being,
at the church to work at a business for the church.
my point being that like you guys
I
were
did
there
nothing
all
for
day.
God anymore.
You guys were there all day.
Yeah, and by there, okay, so this is
Yeah.
how it goes, right? The first 6 months of the company, it started again in January, and it was ramping through that whole fall when our money was being sucked out to every other area. But the amazing thing about it is myself and 5 of my friends, along with the pastor, did this company, and we were all very talented and skilled in different areas. I wasn't necessarily in designing, but I could speak to people and I could negotiate. And one of my other friends was a great salesman. Another one of my friends was an incredible artist. And as crazy as it was to start another business, this business could have been successful if we had a different boss. If it was just me and my 2 friends, we'd be sitting pretty right now with a good business under us, because we all had good work ethic and we were smart enough in what we did. Unfortunately, we didn't have a good boss. So
You guys basically taught yourselves. I mean, you taught yourself how to write code and
Yeah.
design websites.
yeah,
Like something that you would never. I remember always thinking like, this is something I never would have ever expected Ben to be doing, because it just wasn't like the creative aspect was not like what you were always best at, but it was incredible how you taught yourself how to do all these things. Like you were smart. You were so smart. You've always been so smart.
well, thank you.
And even though like designing creativity isn't necessarily like your strongest gift, you were smart enough to be able to teach yourself how to do it.
Well, the
for,
great
like,
thing
what the
about
client wanted.
the great thing about coding is someone else will do the design, and coding
Yeah.
is basically like putting together math problems
Yeah.
to make something fit right on a page. So that kind of stuff is right down my alley. So I was like, oh, I can do this, and taught myself how to do it. Another friend taught himself how to do Flash, and some other more intense coding. And another friend taught himself how to use a video camera. So you know who you are, bud. Chief videographer.
And edit his film.
Yeah, and we did some pretty cool stuff. But in the midst of this, about that time when this business started and Holy Writ greeting cards was still making its push towards a sputtering death.
It was just being drugged behind the back of a car.
Is when our pastor went on sabbatical. And we all know sabbatical is a good thing for people to go to renew themselves, and usually it's to do some extra study, and it's for a short amount of time.
And most healthy churches like require a sabbatical
Yeah.
for their pastors
Which is a great thing.
Yeah, every so many years. So yeah, it's to keep the pastor refreshed and renewed and not and keep him from being burnt out. And
give him a chance to study what he wants to study.
Yeah.
But our pastor basically went on sabbatical because he said he wanted to start these businesses and he wanted to have more time to do it. So from that point in 2008 on, he rarely came to church.
Yeah.
And by rarely, I mean for the first part of his sabbatical, he literally didn't go to church for probably 6 months. Mm-hmm. And then for the next year and a half before everything collapsed, he maybe went once a month max. Mm-hmm. And even we were starting to not be allowed to go to church because we were doing so much work. And at this point also is when our main business center was in his house and in some other people's house that were close to him in an apartment. Mm-hmm. So those were our two main areas of business.
Because you didn't have an office yet, didn't have...
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which was the smart thing to do. If you're doing graphic design, there's no reason to have an office.
Yeah.
I mean, the smart people would never get an office. Now, we weren't smart when we got an office. But this is also when we started spending even more time at his house and even spending time at his house through the night. Mm-hmm. Now, the only time before when we would spend time at his house over a crazy amount of time was when we were doing Holy Writ greeting cards. And what I forgot to mention last time with that great business was something called the handmade African cards. And that was because one of our friends knew how to do macrame. You know, like you hear at summer camp in 7th and 8th grade.
Well, macrame is cool now, but yeah, you're more referring to like the hemp necklaces that we wore in junior high.
So we learned how to do it with this twine and then just made like stick figures with it and then put them on a card, on these really exotic cards, and our pastor labeled them as African handmade greeting cards. Like people in Africa made these people of twine, but it was me and some other guys. I mean, at one point, do you think like, really, we're calling these handmade African greeting cards?
Well, they were handmade.
They were.
They were definitely handmade.
Yeah, I guess you just how you look at the emphasis on what syllable.
Well, it's like saying, yes, like I baked these cookies. That doesn't mean I made the actual cookie dough, but I baked these cookies.
Yeah.
You know? So, but I'll never forget when you guys made a trip to Michael's for materials.
Yeah.
Spent like what, $1,200?
It was $1,300. I remember specifically. It was $1,300. Unlike stamps. Like basically, like our two sons couldn't spend $1,300, and they loved crafts.
I was gonna say I love crafts. I don't even know if I could. I don't know if I could spend $1,300 in Michael's. Although stamps are quite expensive. But what were the stamps for?
I don't know. Some of the African handmade greeting cards.
I mean, it was like all kinds of stuff, like flower appliques and
glitter paint
and just oh my gosh, yeah. And then you guys would make like little stick figure ladies with like African dresses on and like headdresses too.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah.
We didn't sell any of those. They were very expensive too because they were authentic handmade African greeting cards.
You had to pay for your overhead somehow.
Yeah. So sorry, back to the story. So this is when we really started to spend a lot of time, especially because, you know, we were all trying to learn things, and he liked to be in control to make sure that we were learning things. And these,
well, and he was learning like things himself as well,
obviously
right?
not a lot, but yeah. We had tutorials. Lynda.com was a great one. If anyone wants to learn anything, lynda.com.
Oh, I don't remember that.
Yeah, it was great. They teach you everything about Photoshop and Illustrator and After Effects and everything Adobe Swedish. So we started spending a lot of time there, and many people have asked us about his wife and where was she during all of this. And
because we were close to her. Like I was close to her I mean, to a degree, like close to her because you were close to the pastor, and I always really liked her, and she was like really authentic, and she was, yeah, I looked up to her in a lot of ways. She wasn't like overly flashy or like about herself either,
she was
which
a really
was
nice person.
which was just really great. But yeah, so you were still so involved with him. So even though he was on a sabbatical, like you still saw him every single day.
Every day, yeah.
So
And talked to him 15 times a day.
so it didn't really feel like they were on a sabbatical, but she kind of was disappearing.
Yeah, it was one of those strange situations where
You're like, do we ask
were there,
about this?
and then we started spending all night at his house working, and
She wasn't there.
she wasn't there. And she wouldn't show up in the morning, and she wouldn't be there the next day, and it was just a very strange situation. And every once in a while, he'd do a church function, and she would come to show face. And that probably happened for 6 months to a year, and then
Not even that. No, I would say maybe 6 months.
no,
Because
because
we went
she,
to Africa that.
oh,
that
she didn't
October.
go to us.
No.
Oh wow, yeah, maybe 6 months, and then she just
If that,
disappeared,
yeah.
and not a word was mentioned about it.
No,
Not,
she did. He did make a reference. He did finally bring it up that I don't think he addressed it to the church, but to you guys and to like us, that basically like she was painted in a very poor light,
yeah,
and she was, the Jezebel and couldn't hang, and yeah, basically like she was painted as being in the wrong, and she was the negative person for sure. And I remember being so torn about it because what I knew of her, I just couldn't, like, it was just really sad. And I think there was a part of me that could understand because I remember her, I don't know if she told another lady at the church this or if she told me this, but I remember her saying like, I just can't do it anymore. And there was a part of me, most of me was like, what do you mean? Like, this is like what God's called you to do.
You can't enter into the pearly gates.
Right. Like, what do you mean you can't do it anymore? Like, we're all in this together. This is what our life is. But then I remember there was a small part of me too that was like,
Get out.
well, I think it just, my heart softened towards her just in the sense of like, wow, I just couldn't even imagine like how hard it must be for her, how hard it's been for her. And yeah, she was doing what was best for her. Like, and I mean, there's no doubt in my mind she made the right decision. But yeah, it was never, her name was never mentioned and it was never addressed at church.
Never.
And it was just kind of like those of us that were either a part of leadership, and I wasn't necessarily part of leadership, but because you were, like, I was just, married to you in that way, knew more details than other people did. But yeah, it was like very awkward. And then it just was never talked about. Yeah. And she left and no one really ever talked to her again.
Yeah. And even to me, it was never addressed. Like, we're getting a divorce. Yeah. They could be still separated and married to this day for all I know, knowing the kind of whatever. But so that's where that went on for the people who've asked that question. This is about the time where she just kind of disappeared. Mm-hmm. Just stopped showing up places, stopped coming home. And maybe she stopped coming home because there was, 4 early 20-year-olds at her house 24 hours a day.
Well, I mean, this had obviously
which
been
would
going
probably
on.
give anybody a weird feeling.
Well, I mean, I don't think that was the reason she left. She had reasons well before we got there that why she decided to leave. And I honestly can't blame her for any of them. I can't
blame her for marrying him in the first place.
Yeah.
That's her bad.
I can't blame her for anything. I can't imagine how hard things were behind closed doors for her.
Yeah, the shaming. And,
yeah. Because like we've said, he has put on like a really great face like in public, but it was becoming more and more clear how manipulative and abusive he was behind closed doors and in the name of Jesus. So I couldn't imagine what it was like, being his wife.
Yeah, me neither.
But he was also like very much a victim. So I remember he while he didn't talk about it much, like he did play that to his advantage, that he was a victim in this situation.
Very much. When it needed to be, when he needed a sympathetic ear, it was, can you believe my wife is doing this to me?
Yeah. Yeah.
My marriage is having so many problems.
Yeah.
So we did this business and we started it, and it, like I said before, it maybe could have been successful because we hustled. I mean, when you talk about hustling, like we hustled. That's why all the people who, say when you start your new business, you do things for free. Trust me, we did it. Okay. So don't ever tell me if I'm going to start a business, I need to do things for free, because we did things for free for probably 6 months.
6 months?
Well, yeah, up to the whole course of our business we did, but especially starting out, there was a website called Design Quote where people would put up projects and people would bid on it, and mostly it's people like overseas that you can get like a logo for $10. Not us. We were doing logos for $10, and there was 6 people working full time at the company. Unlimited revisions, $10. I can't tell you how many headaches that was for me.
Oh my gosh.
And here's the hard part: is I wasn't a creative designer, so I had to deal with all the clients. So while everybody else was doing the graphic design, there was one girl who worked with us who was awesome and always on time and worked hard, did great work. And I would just hope, I hope she's doing this project, because if she is, it will get done in time. It will get done right.
Oh, versus pastor doing it?
Versus the pastor, when he did a project, you just never knew. You could say, hey, the deadline is Monday. They need it by Monday. We said we give it by Monday. And if he's working on it Sunday and something else came up that he thought he'd want to do or was more important, he would do that, and then I would have to talk to the client and tell him, oh, yeah, smooth it over, basically.
Yeah.
Really hard. And that happened throughout the course of this business, that whatever he thought was supposed to be a priority would take priority. So we'd have a big project due on a Monday, and someone would show up on a Friday from our church and say, I need a flyer for my barbecue business. And he'd be like, oh, we need to help him out. And we'd work 3 days straight, literally 3 days straight on it, and have these paying customers that wouldn't get their stuff in time because it wasn't as important to him. He was like the most scatterbrained, horrible boss ever. And then I always had to pick up the damage control. I was always the damage control guy. There was one guy we worked with over and over, and we were late on every single deadline with him because our pastor would always come up with something new to do instead of his deadline. And I had called him for the 4th or 5th time, and I was just honest with him, and I tried to have some grace with him, and he'd have some grace with me. And I remember him saying, you're really good at this. You're really good at making me feel important, even though you guys are totally screwing up my business. So, I appreciate you, just so you know, I really do appreciate you, but your business, I can't do business with you anymore. I'm like, hey, I don't blame you. But this Design Quote, stuff would pop up from 3 a.m. in the morning until 10 a.m. in the morning. And it became very clear that if we missed a project that could have made us some money, like a crazy website that was like $10,000 with all these things in it that we couldn't actually do and didn't bid on it. So you'd have to buy a bid, and then once you bought the bid, you could bid on it and send a proposal, and they would maybe say yes. So we spent thousands of dollars on being able to bid. Thousands. And we got it so much that we were number 1 on their website for service providers, but we were number 0 on the amount of money we made. So it was just and we put it on our spreadsheet, and that'll be one of the things we put on probably our Instagram stories. I've got one of the spreadsheets of our stuff that we've done that we'd send to potential clients with us being number 1 on Design Quote.
Like your resume?
No, portfolio.
Oh, okay. That's what
Yeah.
I meant. Sorry.
Portfolio. So, because of that, and I mentioned that because, again, he was a night owl, and he would be up until 3 or 4 in the morning. And if he was up, or maybe 1 or 2 and then fall asleep, whatever, if he was up during that time, we would have to be up during that time because he was working.
Yeah.
And then when those bids started coming up at 6 in the morning, we would have to be up to get those bids. So this is where the
And then he
really
would be sleeping.
exactly, and he would be sleeping till 12 or 1 or 2 or 3, whatever it was. But this is where that really, and we'd always were. I was away from home a lot, and we've chronicled that. But this right now, and at this point right now, is when it really took a turn for the worse. And it was about 2 straight years of me working. I mean, there's 24 hours in a day, 18 hours,
Yeah.
maybe more.
Yeah. 19.
Yeah,
Close to 20, actually.
yeah. I would from this point for the next 2 years, I would get home from his house or the other people's house at 3 or 4 in the morning, maybe a little bit later. And sometimes I'd have to get home at 3 or 4 in the morning and then get on a conference call again at home. And then would have to be up by 7 or 8 and going to work by that point.
Yeah.
So this is where about a 2-year span happened where I was seeing Carly never.
Yeah.
She'd be asleep when I got home and she'd be asleep when I left.
Yeah. But, so, you guys started this business, you were doing it out of his house and someone else's apartment kind of down the street. At what point did you guys get an office?
Well, for the first 3 or 4 months, obviously, we were looking for an office because we thought this was going to be the next big thing and we had to meet with clients and we needed an office. And my suggestion was that there's offices you can buy per hour or maybe once per week. And I thought this would be a good solution. Clients could meet us at an office and still feel like we were a legitimate business, but we didn't have to pay a lot for it. And
Because you guys weren't making any money.
we were making money, but not a lot. But at this point, we were building quite a bit of clientele because we were doing it for next to nothing. So we were building a portfolio that was pretty large. Not saying it was the best work, but it was a pretty large portfolio of different things we had done, from graphic design to flyers to advertisements to videos to photography. And but we came to a point where he thought we needed an office, and I was trying to steer us towards something cheaper. And there was a studio in Culver City that we recorded our great worship album at. And the owner of the studio was legit, really good. It was a great studio. And 6 months into the business, a room next to his studio came open in Culver City. And, of course, we thought this was a sign from God. Mm-hmm. Why wouldn't it be?
The room came open, not the upstairs?
The upstairs next to it. It was like it was 3 rooms.
It was huge. Yeah, it was huge.
Yeah, but it was next to it. And we thought it was a sign. Well, our pastor thought it was a sign from God.
Well, we all did. Mostly.
Yeah, because we worked with a guy. He knew us. We knew him. It was
Yeah.
in you want to be in Culver City. It was, 3 blocks away from Fox Studios. It was an area that was not up and coming. I mean, it was established as a entertainment area.
Well, and it felt like if this company is going to be big, like we know it's going to be, and bring in millions or whatever, we felt prophetically was going to be happening. And then this felt like a sign from God that this would come available, this location, blah, blah, blah. When in reality, if you actually are smart business person, you don't even have to be a smart business person, but thinking about, okay, how much can you actually afford on rental?
Yeah.
Location, location wise, does that work for everybody? Are you even paying your staff? At what
Right.
point do you pay your staff?
And how much do we actually need an office?
Right. I mean, and this place was what? Probably 2,000 square feet.
It was
2,500 square feet?
no, it wasn't that big, but it was big, and it was ended up being. I remember the pastor had called me because I was, the regional manager. Basically, I was a person who ran the company because he was not smart enough to do it, and said, "This came open. Can you believe it? Isn't this from God?" And I think it was over $3,000 a month.
Yeah.
For it, and I remember saying,
This is 10 years ago, too. 12 years ago.
I just don't think we can afford it. And at this point, we were bringing in over $3,000 a month to the business. But
Where
you've got to
was that
remember,
going?
well, you've got to remember, we're bringing in over $3,000 a month, but there is at least 6 people working full time, closer to 8 in a business, and you're bringing in $4,000 or $5,000 a month.
Wait, now it's 4 or 5?
I think at this point it was.
Okay.
Like it was a little bit more. It was more than what the rent was. No, it was maybe like right where the rent. It was probably
Yeah, it
right
was-
around $4,000,
we could barely
and rent
make
was
rent, I
like
think.
$3,500. And I just thought, why? But no one's being paid. Like, yeah, we could rent this building, but wouldn't it be better if we just continue to build clientele and then,
So
but
where was that money going? Like, you never got paid. You didn't get paid $1.
no, I didn't. We were all on a phone. It was paying for all the employees' phones. Most
Cell
of them.
phone?
Yeah, cell phones.
Okay.
So I think it was like $1,500 a month going to cell phones, because it was like 6 or 7 people, and then I don't know where the rest of it was going.
His cable bill.
Well, that was a
That was
different story.
eventually.
Yeah, that was a different story eventually that really broke my back. But, yeah, it just, I mean, it was going to Michael's runs. And we still had a little bit of money left over from what we had made in the game show. So that was funding a little bit of what was going on still.
Well, and remember we went like you guys went on a full-on shopping spree to furnish the office. Let's not forget that.
We did, but both of the couches we bought came from the swap meet in Torrance.
But Ben, you guys got a conference table.
Right, but that was on credit, on my credit, and we were paying it every month. And when everything went down, we still paid it off.
I know, but what I'm saying is you guys spent like, what, $1,500 on a conference table?
Yeah,
That it was just like,
it's still in our house.
it was
It's
just
our,
like
it's
if
our
you,
dinner table now.
yeah, it's a great table, but I just remember thinking, you guys are just starting a business, and like, why are you buying like such expensive things that you don't like necessarily need right now? And but I do remember the time too. It was almost like faking it until you make it. But
That was the big phrase: "Fake it till you make it."
yeah, which I
I hate
totally.
that phrase now. Anybody who says that, shove it up. You know what?
And I don't necessarily mind that phrase because I think that is like pertinent to today's day and age in a lot of ways. But it was more like it was such an abusive situation. It became more and more abusive that you couldn't really fake it till you make it because we're never gonna make it. So like, yeah, you guys had that expensive table, but you couldn't ever eat, like you didn't have anything to eat.
No.
Like, you guys were starving, and at one point, one of the guys was living in the office.
Well, he had a place, but yeah.
But he had so much work, he was there 24 hours a day.
Yeah, his chair smelled like BO. It was bad. He never got a shower. It was. I mean, he couldn't go home to shower. It was really bad. But let's take it
But
back
why
to
couldn't
getting.
he go home to shower? Because
there
this is
was
important.
there was so much to do.
Right. And if he was not
And
at
if
his
he
desk
wasn't
when
there
when
when he was called, then he wasn't working hard enough.
he'd be in trouble.
Because we were all giving everything we had. So when we went to this building, the building owner, in order for our business to rent the building, our business was not around long enough to have a credit of its own. So he needed people to sign the lease with their own credit. So it couldn't just be HW Design Inc. on the lease, it had to be a person. And lo and behold, what was the person that somehow didn't have horrible credit? It was Ben and Carly Bass.
Yours truly.
So I ended up signing my name on the lease, even though it was a
big mistake, huge.
big mistake, huge. Even though it was a business building, my name was on the lease.
Yeah.
And that started in about June of that year. So we were in business for about 6 months working.
But your name was also on the business.
Yeah, but a lot of people's name was on the business.
But I thought yours was like the most important one that made it very difficult in years to come to remove yourself from.
No, there was 4 of us on there
Okay.
equal shares.
Okay.
Equal shares of the company that had 0. So what's equal of 0?
What's
4
4
divided by 0?
No, what's 0 divided by 4?
What's 0 divided by 4? 0.
Oh my gosh.
But this is where it all started. Not going to say started to turn because it turned long ago, but this is where it became just crazy, just complete madness. Working a crazy amount of hours, not getting paid a dime.
Working 20 hours.
And then when we went to Culver City, especially, it was the traffic was always bad, and my car broke. So I had a buddy that lived in Torrance, so he would pick me up in his car. Eventually, we would pick up another employee that was coming to work at the business that was at the church. And then we would drive up together every day. And that's very important because those car rides began to break down something in how we were feeling about the situation we were in.
You guys were never able to share, those of you who were at the office all day, never able to share like your frustration and all of this. Like, we're never able to like say, this is crazy. Like, you know, we either need to go home or, you know, like this is frustrating. Like, much like our relationship was in terms of like not really able to communicate about anything, you guys couldn't really either because he would always seem to find out if there was anybody complaining about anything.
And this is one of the weird situations of what we were in, is that we'd have conversations and then he'd have a conference call for everybody at the business, and it would be about a conversation one of us just had, and we're like, God told on us.
Yeah.
you know?
Like that happens
Like
all the time.
It freaked me out. I'm like, he's speaking directly to me even though he's not saying my name.
Yeah.
And part of it was we learned that he was very good at getting information from everybody around him.
Yeah.
So he would talk to everybody on a daily basis and get all the stuff he could about situations to be able to manipulate it. Mm-hmm. So that he could call and it would be like, wow, we just had the conversation 3 hours ago. Well, he talked to someone who heard the conversation 3 hours ago. And it made it very scary for those of us who like really believed that this was God's calling. Like, wow, like God's on his side.
Well, and he would even say that too. Like, he would always bring God into it in a way where it was like you truly did like fear for just like you feared God, like, but not in a healthy way, you know, but like really had to, you felt like God was on his side, that he would tell him anything. And you really had to be careful not to raise your tongue against him in any sort of way because God would tell him. That's how it felt.
Yeah.
And that's how he made it feel to us.
Yeah. So these car rides began to break some of that down with someone who's one of my best friends to this day. And we started to have this feeling because we're working a crazy hours. And then when we go to Culver City, and again, this is good business practice if you're just starting a business, is you want to do door-to-door sales. So we had 2 people doing door-to-door sales every day, and then I would go every once in a while in Beverly Hills. So every day, they would go to Beverly Hills and walk door to door and ask if people needed design or printing needs.
Like actual like retail stores and stuff.
Retail stores in Beverly Hills, though. I mean, like high-end stores. And I remember going once, and I look back at it now, and the only suits I had at the time were the like 3 for $99 wool suits from like... And I remember thinking, you know, I was dressed really nice. I had a shirt and a tie on with a suit. And I just cannot imagine what those people thought when I walked into their building their high prestigious building in my 3 for $99 wool suit saying, do you need graphic design? Do you have needs, graphic design or printing or advertising or marketing needs? Because we could take it. We're a one-stop shop. We'll take care of it all. You need video? We'll do video. You need pictures? We'll do pictures. You need a flyer? We'll do a flyer. You need a logo? We'll do a logo.
You need barbecue? We got you.
You want to feed your clients? We'll feed your clients.
Which I always feel like people that do business like that are like obviously struggling for money, struggling for business, and are like so desperate. Like if someone leaves a flyer on my car for something, I'm like, I'm never going to call you because I'm first of all annoyed that you had to go to this distance to like get business. Then the other part of me is like, wow, I've been there. But it's like so not legit doing this sort of thing.
Yeah. Yes.
But man, you guys like hustled in your burgundy wool suits.
Hustled.
With pit stains.
Big time hustle. Our pastor actually gave one of my friends some of his old suits. Like cigarette burns in them and stuff. But he was really good at getting things out of people. So his suits were actually, there was like an Italian designer downtown that he'd go and buy suits, and they were like almost $1,000 a piece. The suits that he bought. Which
makes so much sense when you're making negative thousands of dollars.
I remember we went to go look at suits with him once, and there was 2 suits he liked, and we were with another one of the people in the church who had a little more money. And the person in the church was like, oh, those both look great on you. Those are great. He's like, oh, great. You'll buy both for me? And basically shamed him into buying 2 suits. And I remember it was like almost $2,000 and thinking,
dang.
Oh, my. I could just use 5 of those dollars.
Yeah.
And driving back and forth from Culver City from the South Bay, it was, we didn't have enough money for gas multiple times. I started putting all the gas on a credit card that we'd paid off. It was crazy. We'd paid off a credit card with our winnings, and then I just started putting more money on the credit card again because it's the only way we could pay for gas.
Yeah, we were back in debt beyond what we originally were in, like, within, 6 months?
Yeah, probably close to that.
By the time the fall came that year?
Yeah.
Within a year, yeah.
Within a year. And then a lot more happened with this business that made it even worse that we'll touch on in a later episode. But one story before we move on is we were trying to get an agreement with, was it a wine company in Beverly Hills?
I don't even remember. Yes.
A wine company in Beverly Hills, and we had bought a nice camera and actually a really good video camera, and had 2 people who did photography, and we were trying to do their magazine, and we said that we basically knew models and we could do a model agent. This is what happens when you feel like I just have to do something to make this work. So this is it's called. Well, I'm not going to tell you what it's called because I don't even want to give it away. But it is a wine company.
You think it's still around?
Yeah, I guarantee it is. It was.
If they hired us, they're not around.
No, they didn't end up hiring us. Okay. That's so good on them.
So they're for sure around.
Yeah, they're around. Called The Wine Merchant. I'll tell you because they didn't hire us. They're smart people. So we were almost going to get hired, and they said, well, we need a photo shoot for a magazine. We need some models. So in classic us fashion...
and you weren't like a front-facing person like the other 2 guys.
No, I wasn't on the road all the time.
Right.
Like,
so they didn't know your face, in other words.
They didn't know my face. So
not yet, at least.
We had to come up with 8 to 10 males and 8 to 10 females to bring to their store to take pictures with their products, and then they would choose those models if they wanted them to be a part of their ad campaign.
Wait, all those people that were there that day, we brought?
Yeah, Craigslist, bro.
Oh my gosh, serious?
Yeah. Talk
about a band of misfits.
So we got a bunch of people on like Craigslist.
I never
to come.
knew that
Yeah,
that was
we got them all. Yeah,
us. Okay.
we were innovative.
But two of those models, again, yours truly.
Show.
But we had to pretend we didn't
We
know
had
each
to pretend
other.
like we didn't know each other and we didn't know our buddy who was taking the pictures. So we had to pretend like we had to walk from different areas to the store and pretend like we
And
didn't
take
know each
pictures
other.
with wine and
With wine and like different people, like hugging other
like
people
candid
socially.
social,
Not
yeah.
not anything weird, but like like I'm flirting with a girl and taking a picture and like, well, my wife is sitting next to me like I don't know her.
Oh my gosh, I didn't realize that was the case. I'm so much more embarrassed now. I thought like they were all different just models that came in.
Yeah, we brought him in.
Okay, but I didn't realize that was like our pitch.
Oh, yeah.
I thought, okay. I'm so embarrassed. Because I remember our buddy saying, oh yeah, they liked us, like as in you and me. Now I think he probably was just saying that. When really they didn't like any of us. They didn't hire us.
No, they didn't.
I always
hire us.
wondered what happened with that. I didn't know that was our pitch and they just didn't hire us.
Yeah, I think they ended up just
My feelings are
never
hurt.
calling us back. Apparently, my wool $33 suit didn't impress them.
Apparently we need to keep our day jobs, which Ben obviously did, so.
I kept it. Regional manager. Booyah.
Oh my gosh, I did not know that was the case.
Yes.
That's so mortifying.
It is.
I wish we had those pictures somewhere. I'm sure we do. Don't we have... We could get them from somebody. I don't know. If you guys are lucky, we'll see if we can find them. I totally forgot about that.
I know that I said that was going to be the last story, but there were also posters we made. And if you want to talk about embarrassing trying to sell things, all right, this is major embarrassment. When Michael Jackson passed away.
That's not funny. Sorry. I'm laughing about the story.
Our pastor made... Well, first of all, I remember our pastor calling and sobbing. Like, sobbing. And I remember thinking, yeah, I mean, he was a good artist, but...
No, you didn't know why he was crying. Remember? He was, like, really upset.
Oh, yeah, he's like, I'm so emotional. I'm like, oh, are you okay? What's the matter? Michael Jackson died. Like, just bawling on the phone. And so in tribute to that, he made some tribute posters of Michael Jackson, as well as one other designer. I think we had 4 tribute posters of Michael Jackson. And
that you guys tried to sell.
yeah, we didn't sell it on a website. Let's just say this. At Staples Center, they had a memorial for Michael Jackson, just like a going away. And you'll never guess who was outside the Staples Center trying to sell posters that we printed. Oh, it was us.
Not the pastor, you guys. He would never do that.
So if you can imagine having a funeral of someone and then standing outside the funeral trying to sell posters. Yeah.
But at least you had the experience from selling T-shirts the previous Christmas.
Very good. Yes, I did. Also, when Obama became president, we made Obama posters. And one of them was so strange. It was a poster of Obama with like a cowboy hat on and...
What?
Yeah, but there was 4 Obama posters that we sold.
Really tried to capitalize on that.
We tried to sell to a lot of people. So, those were 2 posters we made. Not a lot of traction on those. Not a lot.
Oh my gosh. Well, this business goes on for many years, but we'll end this episode tonight leading up to when we went to Africa at the end of this 2008. How did we even start like talking about that? Because we
had this sister church in Nashville.
Oh yeah, okay, we talked about that.
And we had done by this time 2 different things in Nashville with them, and then they had someone come to their church who was in Nigeria and had asked us to come and lead worship there.
Okay. They were going to be doing like a worship revival week
Yeah.
or something, right?
Yep.
So we were going to be going in October of 2008 to Africa, and that's probably what our next episode will be about, that trip and what went on there.
Yep.
Yippers. This week's Final Four is our obsessions. So, meaning this could be like latest obsession, something you've been obsessed with most of your life, something that you're just all about. Yeah, it doesn't matter how long. So different than the guilty pleasures, because this is not necessarily, the guilty pleasure is more like kind of not as positive of a thing that you do every once in a while, but these can be things that you are just all about all the time.
Yeah, which Carly had to explain to me because I thought, isn't it the same thing?
It's not even close to the same as a guilty pleasure. An obsession is completely different than a guilty pleasure. A guilty pleasure to me is like more of a negative thing, and whereas an obsession, I'm taking it as like these are positive, or maybe not positive, but they're just not negative things necessarily that like we love so much.
Okay, you can start.
Okay. My first one for me is chapstick. I have an obsession with chapstick, almost to the point where I think it's like an OCD thing that if I don't have it with me, if I don't have some on me,
This is true.
and my lips are chapped,
So
like
true.
I go into like a panic mode, because let's be honest, there's nothing worse than having chapped lips and nothing to remedy it. Am I right? It's one of the worst things.
You're right. It's so.
It's so terrible.
It's an obsession.
It is
sure.
it's an obsession, and I don't want to hear people say that the more chapstick you use, the more like you need it.
Yeah, I've heard
Because
that before. Yeah.
I don't think that's true. I don't think it's true, because yeah, that doesn't even make any sense. It doesn't make any sense, and I don't want to be fixed, so just stop trying to fix me. So chapstick for sure is something that I always have. I put it on before I go to bed, very heavily.
mentholatum before she
Yes, I
goes
put
to bed.
mentholatum on before I
Like
go to bed.
an inch thick,
Yes, because
an inch above her lips and below her lips.
yeah, around my lips I like it, because that's where I tend to get chapped, is like around my lips, not necessarily on my lips. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I don't know what to say. I don't know what else to say. But mentholatum, we like always used it when we were little, and it's actually really hard to find nowadays. FYI. But yes, the mentholatum, because I hate waking up in the middle of the night with my lips being chapped, or waking
Yeah,
up
I
with my
agree.
lips being chapped. It's
you're right.
terrible.
I used to not care, but now I care.
But I'm also very specific, so this is maybe going back to I'm just now again affirming my my particularness. I don't like chapstick has to have some sort of like what's it called?
Cooling feature?
Yes,
Yeah.
medicated feature. So like the Blistex medicated, like the green tube, or like the dark teal tube, or I don't love Carmex. I feel like Carmex does dry my lips out eventually. It doesn't last very long. I could talk about this for hours, so just get the hook when you feel necessary.
Yeah, and I feel like when I met you, you never wore lipstick. It was always chapstick.
Yeah, chapstick or lip gloss. But even lip gloss now, I have to put chapstick on before lip gloss, which is really hard when you wear like a long wear lipstick, because they don't mix well with like chapstick underneath. But oh gosh, that's like the next worst thing, is having like a long wear lipstick on chapped lips. It like looks terrible as well as it feels terrible. But I absolutely hate chapstick that has sunscreen in it. If it can have sunscreen in, if it has like a medicated feature as well, but like chapstick sunscreen is awful. It's really bad. And don't even get me started on the flavored chapsticks. Okay, go ahead now.
Okay. This is maybe a little surprising because I feel like you're more obsessed with this than me, but it's been always an obsession for me is shoes. Like I've always loved shoes. I remember even freshman year in high school wanting to get this certain pair of Nike Air Ups. So I've always I've always loved shoes, and you have more shoes than me. You take better care of your shoes, and I just
You don't necessarily spend money on buying
I'm not like a
shoes.
guy who has like every pair of Jordans. I have 0 Jordans. I would love to have some, but I hate spending money too because I'm Dutch, so I do hate spending money. But I do love. I really do like shoes. I feel like it brings things together. I like a good pair of shoes.
Yeah, that's true, because that is something I always like to buy for you, is shoes, or
Yes.
something you usually ask for your birthday every single year, is a new pair of shoes.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Okay, number 2 for you.
My next one is Felicity.
How many times does this come up?
We have not talked about Felicity once on this
Oh,
podcast.
I thought we did.
No,
Favorite
when?
TV shows, I said.
Oh, true. Yeah. Okay. Well, Felicity is an obsession of mine. I can't even begin to express how many times I've watched all 4 seasons through. Ben's
cannot
eyes are like just
There's no expression.
rolling in the back of his head. My obsession started with Felicity when I was in high school. I was a freshman when the first season aired. She was a freshman in college. So I felt this connection to her. We went through 4 years of school together.
And she has curly hair like Carly.
She has curly hair. She was really one of the only Hollywood stars with curly hair. So that was like really important to me. And you're laughing because, well, I mean, there's not a lot of people with curly hair. So I felt very, known by her. and just, loved everything about her, loved everything about the show. And when I met you and your name was Ben, it was like, of course it is, because her love interest in the show's name was Ben, obviously. And it just was like, it was just meant to be. But Felicity is one of those shows that like never gets old to me. I could rewatch it 1,000,000 times. I know every detail about it. It's one of the best. I would say it's one of my obsessions. I love Carrie Russell. And I've loved her in like everything she's done. She's fabulous.
Very good. My second one is buying books.
Oh my gosh, this is so true.
I do really enjoy reading, so I do read a lot. And especially, I went to a conference a couple years ago, and they said that if you read 20 minutes a day and retain the information, you're in the top 1% learners of the entire world.
So now we get Amazon packages at least twice a week sent to our house.
So every time I see a book, I'm like, oh, I'd love to read that book. I get it.
Yes,
because books are relatively inexpensive, and I just think I would love to read that book. And I read a lot of them.
Thousands of dollars on books these past couple years.
I read a lot of them. I read every single one, just whether I read the entire thing through. But I read every single one.
That doesn't count at all. That doesn't mean you read it.
Well, sometimes I feel like you can read the first couple chapters and feel like, okay, I know what this book is about.
That's so false. Then you should return it.
Okay. But I'm not like a fiction book guy. I'm like a total like nonfiction, like
inspirational books.
Yeah,
business.
One of my
books.
favorite books is The Power of Habit. Mm-hmm. I love that book.
A good book.
And I've read it a couple times. I think it's incredible about how the brain works with habit. And New Brain, New You is one I'm reading currently. I mean, it's mostly nonfiction stuff. I like learning.
Yeah, they're like learning books.
That's probably I probably have more books than I probably need.
Yeah,
well, I for sure need more books than I need.
I have more books than I need. I forgot about that one. That's definitely true. It's always something like, okay,
I always I'll hear something.
Book.
I'll hear something or read something, and someone will mention a book, or I'll read something about another book with a footnote about another book, and I'm like, I'd love to read that book. I'll buy it.
You're on Amazon that second.
Yep.
Gosh, thank God for Amazon.
Murdered our life.
Oh my gosh, but also brought so much joy. It sparked so much joy. Is that all you have to say about that?
Yes.
Okay.
It is.
My third one, I'm saving my best one for last, but my third one is good ice water.
That's for sure true.
I love good
That is for sure true.
ice water. It's got to be iced. I do not like room temperature water. I don't like slightly cold water. I like ice water, and I like good water. Some good waters, Fiji's good. I feel like that's always like the go-to is Fiji. I actually prefer, totally, but I actually prefer Aquafina the most. I like Aquafina a lot. Some days I'd rather die of thirst than drink a bottle of Arrowhead or Nestle, which is the Nestle is actually what we have, like what we have on campus where I work. You no longer work there. And like it's all filtered through like Nestle, which I've gotten used to it. It's fine, but it's terrible water. It's so terrible. Arrowhead is terrible. I don't know what it is, but I love Aquafina water. I mean, I don't consider myself very high maintenance, but I don't enjoy sink water. I can go to a different, like in Colorado, sink water like is significantly different than like when we go home to see your family. Or like I remember even going to Canada, like it just tastes so different than it does here in California. So I like filtered water, and I like good water, and I like it to be super cold.
Everything is opposite of what I like. Because I will drink tap water 10 times out of 10.
And I don't mind tap water if it's cold.
Yeah, and I only drink water from the tap. And I don't like cold water.
Yeah.
I want room temperature water because I want to be able to drink it in less than a second. Teeth? It hurts my teeth a little bit, and I haven't. Okay, one of my obsessions, and I didn't. This is going to be one of my obsessions is drinking water and being hydrated.
Excuse me, you're taking my platform right now. I'm not finished. Okay, cold water, the ends.
So now this is come into my top 4 because this is like a complete obsession.
It is.
Being hydrated.
Yes.
Is one of it is the number one obsession in my life. If I pee and it's not clear, I internally start to panic. And I think, well, this is why you're tired. This is why you have no energy. This is why you're going to pull a muscle. Everything that goes along with being dehydrated, I can't handle it. And when I drink water, I don't sit and sip water. I will just guzzle a gallon at a time.
Well, that's like most things you do. Like you drink your coffee, you wait for it to cool.
I wait for it to cool down, and then I drink it as fast as I can.
You slop your food in your mouth as fast as possible and as loudly as possible.
But I drink so much water because I'm so afraid of being dehydrated.
Yeah.
So that wasn't in my top 4, but it's in my top 4 now. For sure, 100% water and being hydrated.
That's more, I feel like that falls more into like your addictions than it does obsessions, which maybe will have an addictive personality Final Four at some point.
Yeah, my entire life.
Yeah. Everything Ben does will fall under the category. Okay, well, what was your other third one?
It was Lululemon. So I love those pants. It's great. I mean, there's nothing to dispute about that. Nothing else to say.
You love Lululemon. I mean, and rightly so. I equally love Lululemon. But Ben has become quite the snob about his pants. And like where you would question me.
We've talked about not finding pants that fit. They fit. Okay, they're extremely comfortable. They look nice. There's nothing better than some Lulu.
You
pants.
absolutely get what you pay for it with Lulu.
Without doubt.
But my point being is that if I were to ever try to convince you that I needed 4 different colors in the exact same pair of pants, you would think I was crazy. But you have 4 pairs of pants.
No, I don't. I have 3, but thank you.
Okay. Sorry. The 4th ones haven't arrived in the mail yet.
No, there's 3, and I get 1 per year. So over the past 3 years, I've gotten 1 per year.
Yeah, they are great pants, and they look great on you. And it's more like recently, like the past couple years, been your obsession as you got your first pair and
I never thought I would do it, and then
you never thought you'd like them over like nice. Yeah, I think we got you
convinced me too,
joggers,
and
like
I
5-6 years ago,
and they're just so comfortable. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so my final one, most important. Okay, I hope you guys are ready for the hours and hours I could talk about this obsession. Do you have any idea what it is? You could only imagine. The Olympics.
That or Princess Di's funeral, one of the two.
Oh my gosh, I forgot.
That's more of a guilty pleasure.
Yeah.
Carly videotaped everything about Princess Di's funeral.
I know I'm not alone. I have some other friends that are equally as obsessed. Okay, so the Olympics. I am obsessed with the Olympics. Okay, let's just for a couple minutes talk about the 96 Olympics in Atlanta, Georgia. Okay, I have the entire Olympics recorded on VHS. I'm pretty confident that my parents still own it. But this was an iconic moment in the history of gymnastics in the Olympics, right? Because
I don't know, you tell me.
we were behind going into the last vault for the gold. The Russians were beating us. Dominique Mucciano fell twice like a fool. So Carrie Strug had her 2 vault rotations that she had to do. She completely over-rotated on the first one and fell and hurt her ankle terribly. We all remember this. And we were like, what's going to happen? Like, she has to land this next vault in order for us to win the gold. Like, this was huge. Magnificent Seven. Like, I mean, I can go on forever about talking about these girls. They were icons. Carrie Strug, she gets up on that last vault. She's hurt her ankle. She can barely walk. I mean, she very terribly damaged it. She runs, jumps, lands. It was the most, I'm getting chills just thinking about it. When she lands that, and then Bella Crowley has to carry her to the awards ceremony, and she's in that brace in her ankle because she can't, and she's waving as they put on those gold medals. I will never forget that moment in the history of my entire life. Women's gymnastics is probably the best part of the Summer Olympics, as well as the swimming. And even love the Winter Olympics. I mean, just everything is just so exciting about it. Yeah, I love everything Olympics related.
Yeah, true.
I had a coworker who equally loves the Olympics. And we would wear red, white, and blue the first day of Summer Olympics and Winter Olympics when we worked together. When are they on again? We've got 2 more years for summer?
I don't know.
Okay.
You tell me.
I should know that, yeah. I need to think about it, but I don't have the time. Anyways, that is my final obsession, probably my biggest obsession.
Yeah, that's true.
I love all things Olympics. Go to
Very
USA.
True. Very true. My final one will be quick with this. It's been a while on this podcast. Protein in every meal. It's an obsession. I just...
It's the bane of my existence.
We did the Daniel fast for a while, and there was,
so to be clear,
maybe
the
not protein. Okay, not protein every meal, like meat protein in every meal.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not like beans. I got some protein from beans, or I got some protein from lentils, or I need some meat protein in every meal.
But I think it's more you mentally think that, right? Than you're actually, your body actually needs it.
Yeah, probably. But I do. So that's a major obsession.
What's an example? I'll give one.
Oh, okay, Carly will give one.
Well, an example would be you make eggs for breakfast, which are full of protein, are mostly protein and cholesterol. And then you put chopped up turkey into it, which to me, I'm that's our lunch meat. Why do you need this in your eggs when you're already having protein in your eggs? And now you're double protein up when this is our lunch meat that you're using for your eggs.
Yeah, and usually my answer to that is, can I make the eggs the way I want to make them? That's usually the answer. Is it okay if I make some scrambled eggs with some turkey in them?
And then
some cheese?
My response is, would you like to grocery shop then?
That is usually the response.
But yeah, you definitely need, I couldn't possibly ever make a meal without some sort of meat protein.
Yeah, I feel like I've gotten better over the past year since we've done some different diets, and I haven't been as adamant about being 220 pounds and trying to maintain my muscle mass. And I think that was always it. I was always trying to lift hard. So if I'm not going to get two times my body weight in protein, then how am I going to build muscle? And so I feel like the last year has been a little bit better with that. But yeah, for sure an obsession.
Yeah, that's true. It's a good one.
Yeah, that's all of them.
That's all of them. Well, it's not all of them, but for the
all
evening.
the obsessions I have.
For the evening, that is it.
See you
all
next
right.
time.
Happy Friday. Thanks for joining us on Biography. Please subscribe or leave a comment. And if you have questions or want to open up a discussion, you can find us on Instagram or Facebook at Biography. See you next time.